Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chateau Béla, a castle with 250 years of history that was confiscated in 1945 from the previous owners and then reacquired by the granddaughter of them in 2000. It was rebuilt in a hotel, and together with the famous Mosel winemaker Egon Müller, in a project of a hotel and a winery, it was reopened in 2008 as the first five-star hotel in Slovakia. I'm very happy that this chateau is hosting the Danube Wine Challenge project, the competition, and now the live stream. I would like to present our remote speakers. Elizabeth Gabay, Master of Wine. She is working with us since 2018. She visited Slovakia several times. She's also the author of Rosé, Understanding Pink Wine Revolution. She's a contributor to different important wine magazines. She is an international taster and very respected wine critic from the UK, now living in Provence, in France. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you today?
I'm good. Good. Bit cold, but good.
Okay, nice to see you. My counterpart from Austria, Georg Schweitzer, who is the director of Weinburgenland, and he is also the member of Wine Academic Club, and we are working very close together since last year, promoting the wines from Central Europe and especially from the Danube region. Hello, Georg, how are you? We can't hear you. Okay. Yes, can you?
So now it should be fine. Hello, Edita. I'm fine, thank you.
Maybe people don't know, but you have finished your Master of Wine Studies. You already passed the theoretical exam, and you will be sitting the tasting exam in June next year. So how are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling quite enthusiastic, and hopefully it's going to happen, because the last year we had to cancel due to Corona, and yeah, I'm preparing myself quite a lot, I can tell you, for this one.
Okay, fine. So Georg will be presenting 5 BLAUFRÄNKISCH wines from Austria. We have also Frank Smulders, Master of Wine, online. Frank started the cooperation with some Slovakian winemakers recently, and he also visited Slovakia with me twice. He was also here in Chateau Béla and visited the vineyards of southern Slovakia. Frank is a wine educator. He is lecturing at Austrian Wine Academy and some different other institutions, the WSET educational program. He's also a wine buyer and a very respected wine critic. I would like to present Simon Wolf, coming from the UK, but now living in Netherlands. He is the author of a very important book, Amber Revolution, which is, I think, an essential a study material for anybody who wants to know something about orange wines, who wants to understand the style, and who wants to know more about orange winemakers. Simon is also a contributor to different wine magazines and also a taster, for example, for Decanter and Meininger, same as Liz and some other magazines as well. Simon, how are you today?
Very good, thanks, Edita, and great to be here. Yeah.
Fine. And do we have the connection with Frank in the meantime? Not yet, okay. So Maurizio Dante Filippi is another speaker that will be tasting with us during this masterclass. Maurizio was the best sommelier of Italy in 2016, And he is the personality behind the project with the name Sala della Comitissa. I hope I pronounced it well in Italian. It's a very interesting fine wine and food project in Italy. And Maurizio is also the author of Linea Umana stemware line that will be one of the important parts of this tasting, the glasses of this line. Hello Maurizio, how are you this afternoon?
Hi Edita, I'm fine and I'm very happy to meet you tonight for this very interesting tasting of 10 wines in my classes.
Thank you very much. I would like to present shortly the project Danube Wine Challenge. Okay, so Danube Wine Challenge is an international wine competition that is held at Chateau Béla, and since last year it was awarded the auspices of International Organization of Wine and Wine, OIV, and it was also acquired as a member of a very prestigious World Federation of Major International Wine and Spirit Competitions, Vinofet, as the 17th member. Unfortunately, due to COVID pandemic, we had to postpone the 2020 edition to next year. So we didn't want to give up, and we decided to go virtual. So you will now follow our two master classes. The first one was held last week, and it was on orange wines. And this week we will talk about BLAUFRÄNKISCH or FRANKOVKA, which is the most noble red grape variety, in my opinion, of the Central Europe and of the Danube countries. This is why we decided to go virtual, because normally during our competition we dedicate the time after the tasting for lectures, workshops that are offered to tasters and to public. And this year, this is something that we wanted to contribute to all the winemakers and to all the hotel and restaurant owners and managers who suffer very much during the corona crisis. And we would like to say, hello, we are here, we are not giving up. We continue our job in promoting wine culture, in promoting the cooperation among winemakers, and we really want to support all good quality wines. So welcome, dear friends, and taste with us the most important red grape variety, in my opinion, of Central Europe, which sometimes is called the Pinot Noir of the East. So let's see if it is true or not. Thank you very much for the video. Ask Georg, as I said, the director of Weinburgenland, to present the grape variety, to tell us something about BLAUFRÄNKISCH, or in Slovak, FRANKOVKA MODRÁ. Georg, please, be so kind.
Okay, so thanks a lot again for the opportunity to participate here. BLAUFRÄNKISCH. In German, yeah, it's called BLAUFRÄNKISCH. It has got quite a lot of names, and there was one saying from Francis Robinson, tasting some BLAUFRÄNKISCH wines, and this statement is an outcut of tasting of Heinrich, Mr. Heinrich Winery in Gors in Austria, Alte Reben 2012. Very charming, transparent, and well-balanced. I have to call this Burgundian. In structure, I'm afraid. And this is what you just mentioned. Some call it the Pinot Noir in terms of noble red grape from the Central European Union. So where does BLAUFRÄNKISCH come from? Actually, it's the parentage is from Gouais Blanc, meaning in German Weißer Heunisch and Blauer Zimmertraube. So it's a cross between a white wine grape and a red wine grape. In the vineyard, the variety is quite highly demanding, so it has a problem in the very beginning. Color can happen quite easily if the weather is too cool or too rainy during the flowering period. But on the other hand, it ripens quite late. So we need a good warm site, a good heat-keeping capacity soil for this variety to really make it ripe. Otherwise, we're going to have green wines with tannins which are not rounded, which are not really ripe. The styles are quite different, and especially here in Austria, from the north to the south, you can taste the difference depending on the soil, depending on the climate, and depending, of course, on the vinification in the cellar. Normally, it produces a moderate to full-bodied red wines, and the good thing here is Blaufränkisch does have affinity to oak. The typical palate for Blaufränkisch, we all normally have all kinds of berries and cherries in there. Has got a quite good acidity structure, which of course supports the longevity of the variety, and it has got prominent tannins. When it's young, it can be sometimes a little bit demanding, let's put it like this, on your palate, but it has potential to age. So some Blaufränkisch are really great wines after 10, 15, 20 years. But, and as we're going to taste today, we will have Blaufränkisch wines which you can taste already or drink already when they are still quite young. The origin of Blaufränkisch, from geographical point of view, there are two stories. One is in the Lower Styria from former times, which is today Slovenia. The other one is in Lower Austria, in the city nowadays called Maissau. But the naming Lemberg, which used to be the name of the city of Maissau, or Lemberg in the Slovenian side, was providing this name to the variety. Just a quick one on the Blaufränkisch, the name. Actually, back with Charlemagne the Great, he was dividing grapes in two categories. And there was the one category which he called superior category, and they all ended with the name Fränkisch. And the Blau, coming from blue, from the color, this is one story how the name was put together. There's another one from Hungary. And Hungary right now is the most dominant place for Blaufränkisch in terms of plantings. So about 8,000 hectares are planted in Hungary. About 3,000 hectares are planted in Austria, followed by Germany, 1,800 hectares. In total, there are about 18,000 hectares of Blaufränkisch planted in this Central European area, including Slovenia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, Germany, Italy even. That's called Limburger, by the way. And down there you can see the synonyms. It's Blaufränkisch, it's Lemberger, it's Keck Frankosch, which is the perfect translation from Blaufränkisch. FRANKOVKA, as already mentioned here, Franconia in Italy, and there's one name in Bulgaria. It's still called Gamay. Not to mix it up with the Gamay from the Beaujolais area, but here again we close the link, we close the whole story with Pinot Noir, Gamay, Burgundy, and Burgundy style of wines. And if you look on the bottle shape of a lot of Blaufränkisch wines, they are bottled in Burgundy bottles. So this is the big story behind Blaufränkisch.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Georg. It was fantastic presentation of this grape variety. I would like to present another part of this online masterclass, and this is the glass. So, as I said, it is very important to talk about fine wine in connection with a proper glass. In this short video, you can see you cannot see any difference, we will see, between the handmade and machine-made glass by RONA. RONA actually is the premium fine glass producer of Slovakia, exporting 90% of their production all over the world. The history of RONA started at the end of 19th century, And in 2001, it was the first producer of stemware who succeeded in making the stemware with the pulled stem in one piece. It means the bowl and the stem are made from one piece. You can see the demonstration on the left-hand side as it is handmade, and on the right-hand side, the same process by machine. What is important? The glasses are made from the same raw material. The name is crystalline. It's a lead-free fine crystal. And the important thing are not just the mechanical properties, but also the optical properties and thermic properties of the glass. And what is, for us as winemakers or sommeliers or producers or consumers, very important that the price of machine-made glass with exactly the same quality properties is 5 times lower than the handmade production. It's just because of the lack of manual craftsmanship. The people who are devoted to this kind of artisan work are simply disappearing, vanishing. So, and also the demand for fine glassware is increasing over the world. So all important producers are trying to replace the handmade or mouth-blown production and try to start the machine-made production with exactly the same properties. As you can see, either handmade or machine-made, it is always a part of the glass, almost 40%, that has to be cut during the process. This is the sacrifice for the quality, but it is recycled in the process. So it is to assure the top quality of the glass. And as you can see, the form and the finesse of the glass is exactly the same. Even the professionals cannot distinguish the difference between the mouth-blown and handmade and machine-made glass. Thanks to this technique, RONA has developed different product lines, and the top of the handmade by machine line with using the ultra-thin glass since 2018 is the Linea Umana. And the designer of this Linea Umana is Italian top sommelier Maurizio Dante Filippi. And I would like to ask Maurizio to explain us the idea behind Linea Umana, the shape of the glass, and the importance for wine tasting. What is the execution of a good glass to be a loudspeaker for winemaker and for his wine? Maurizio, please.
Yes, thank you, Edita. I
will put your presentation, of course. Yeah.
Yes, I see the production of the RONA glasses that I know the few years. The collaboration with RONA was born in 2018 with me, and when I was given the opportunity to focus my attention on the potential of our wine glasses to better develop aromas. This was something I had felt the need for a long time, and I designed them from a basis of more than 10 years of research and experience, sensing aromas and how glasses enhances aromas. The result for me and for RONA was very satisfying because in addition to being very beautiful, light, elegant and full of charm, in the Linea Umana glasses, each wine is more complex, harmonic and expressive than in wine tested in other glasses. Even in the case of the technical evaluation, we have found that the wines always receive from 3 to 8% higher evaluation. Also, these glasses were created to not oppose the movement of the wine. I have always believed that the movement of the wine in the glass is very important to how the aromas develop. These glasses in particular, the glass that we use today in this very special tasting wine, which was created for red wines of great structure, is the best example of how the roundness and the smooth form allow the movement, which greatly enhances the wine's characteristic. And then only with this particular shape of the highest part of this glass are the aromas give the possibility to be released and directly reach the nose of the taster. And now I'm curious to test our wine, our glasses in this.
Maurizio? Maurizio, I would like to ask you to tell us 2-3 words about the glass that we used last time for orange wines, because this was the world premiere of this glass. And also I would like to say that RONA is, until now, as far as we know, the only producer of wine glasses that has a glass that is especially designed for orange wines. Can we have the...
Yes. Last week it was very satisfaction for me, because for the preview of the orange wine glasses made to RONA, with RONA, we have for the first time the satisfaction of the development of the aromas of the orange wine, because the orange wine is very particular production, and with 8 different orange wine, we have the glass very interesting for this. Is very beautiful in the shape, is very beautiful in the line, in the table, but the thing more interesting is the result with the orange wine testing.
Exactly, I absolutely agree. And before we pass to the tasting of red wines, and Maurizio will explain us also the shape of this glass, I would like to encourage everybody who is interested in orange wines to watch the recorded online masterclass that is now available on YouTube channel, and hear the comments of our expert panel on orange wines from Austria and from Slovakia. So Maurizio, could you just very briefly tell us about this special glass that is at the first sight very big, because it's 900 milliliters red wine glass, but at the end it could serve as a good decanter for a fine wine. What do you think?
Yes, in my thought was the 2 different glass of the red wine. One is for the red wine with Greek structure, with a big color, and the functional of these glasses is same of the decanter, because we have 12 centimeters of the diameter, and we have a big part that contact the wines with oxygen, with air. And in this glass,
excuse me, Maurizio. We can speak about this glass and how it works with wine during the tasting. So thank you very much for your presentation. And I would like to pass the word to Georg, so that we can taste the wines from Burgenland now. Okay?
Okay, yeah, so I was really excited about the glasses tasting in Blaufränkisch, and I did a comparison tasting with some other glasses as well. But let's go to the wines from Burgenland. As said before, Blaufränkisch is quite important variety for Burgenland area. Actually, it's the most planted red grape variety in Burgenland, closely followed by Zweigelt. And Zweigelt is a cross between Blaufränkisch and St. Laurent. So Blaufränkisch is involved there as well. And as said before, we've got different styles of Blaufränkisch here in Austria, which we're going to taste through right now in the glasses. So thank you very much. So on the next slide, you will see some figures and facts about Blaufränkisch. Actually, just to sum it up, Austria, you can see it on the right-hand side of the map, is in the middle of Europe, bordered by Czech, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia. We are having about 45,000 hectares of wines planted. About 15,000 hectares are red wine. For the Blaufränkisch, in total in Austria, we planted 3,000 hectares. As said, in Burgenland area, it's the majority grape. And even out of those 3,000 hectares, in total 2,850 are within Burgenland. So it's really our major grape there. As said before, followed by Zweigelt. Zweigelt is the dominant red grape variety whole of Austria. And in Burgenland area, we have 3 dedicated DACs. So this means origin-based wines. They are called Leiterberg DAC, Mittelburgenland DAC, and Eisenberg DAC. So if you see a red wine on the label stated Leiterberg DAC, for example, then it's pure Blaufränkisch. And we've got a new DAC, called the mixed DAC for Rosalia, which can be made either from Zweigelt or from Blaufränkisch. And we will have those wines here as well. As said before, Blaufränkisch is a variety who needs a quite warm climate. And in Austria, especially in Burgenland area, it finds perfect conditions. So from the east side, the arrow with number 1 on this slide shows a lot of warm and heated air coming in, which is beneficial for the Blaufränkisch late ripening in October time. From the west, we get the rain, which is quite well important for the Blaufränkisch here in Burgenland, but we don't get that much rain like the western part of Austria, just about fine for the Blaufränkisch. A cool airstream is coming from the north, which is supporting the fruit flavor and the acidity of the Blaufränkisch. And from the south, we get the Mediterranean warmth. So it's a mixture between warm air and rainy rains, especially in the ones from Eisenberg, which we're going to taste later on. We will see this effect of a little bit more acidity, a little bit leaner structure. So Burgenland as such, from the north to the south, I wrote down the most dominant grape varieties. Blaufränkisch being the number 1 with 21%, Zweigelt number 2 with 19%, followed by Grüner Veltliner and Welsch Riesling, both white wine grapes varieties, each of them having 10% of plantings, and the rest is split up in other 36 varieties allowed here in the Burgenland areas. So, but you see, Blaufränkisch is by far the number 1. So let's go for the tasting. The first wine in this tasting is a wine from the Leiterberg region. On the upper right side of the slide, you see Burgenland again and the circle where the wine is coming from. It's from the winery Král Stefanus, and actually the owner of this winery is Slovakian guy, Pavel Král, and he's working together with a winery, Mr. Stefan Zehetbauer, and this is the kind of the play of the game. And the name is put together from Král and Stefanus, and it's as well a hint to the king Stefan I, who used to be king about Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, former times, so it's something together. The interesting thing on this Blaufränkisch Vintage 2018, it's coming from a pure limestone site. It's temperature controlled, fermented, and got some maceration, 3 months on the skins. Full malo is done in stainless steel. So this wine is a wine for, let's say, daily consumption, a nice glass of Blaufränkisch, having a fruity profile. But as said before, it's something for a daily purpose. So I would be interested to hear the comments on this wine.
Unless, I don't know if we have already Frank online, because I would like to start with him. If not, I would suggest I can comment on this wine, as yes, Pavel Král comes from Slovakia. I know him, he's my friend, hope he's online. Hello, Pavel. And I know this wine very well because this summer we made a vertical tasting of this Blaufränkisch up to vintage 2013. So I absolutely agree with Georg that really this nice minerality and this light fruity character with a velvety structure of this wine makes this wine very appealing and easy drinking, but not an easy wine, I would say. It's a wine that has a typical Blaufränkisch character that reminds us on Pinot Noir. Although it's more fruity, it's really very nice acidity, that typical Blaufränkisch acidity. And I made my notes yesterday. What I liked on this wine was it's a combination of spicy and black cherry character, which was very pronounced, and very nice floral notes of roses and violets, and the spicy finish, which after 1 hour, I made my notes, was still great and very drinkable. And first I was hesitating when I was selecting the glass for this tasting. So I have to say that this glass helps a lot even lighter styles of wines to develop quicker, but to keep very long time their structure and their aromatics. So I don't know if we don't have Frank still. There are some connection problems. So I would like Simon to comment just briefly on this Blaufränkisch, because I know that you lived in Burgenland and you know the style of Burgenland Blaufränkisch. So what is your opinion on this wine?
Yeah, it's a very interesting wine, actually. There's two things that strike me about this. I mean, it's a Blaufränkisch that hasn't seen any oak, which I actually really like. I enjoy being able to focus on the fruit. But it's interesting because it's not just a youthful, fruity wine. It's got this sort of slight note of what I would call sort of cacao, even approaching mocha. So you could almost be led to believe there had been a bit of oak aging, but it's just got some savory depth that I wasn't necessarily expecting when I read about the winemaking. Very long skin contact, I think, for these days. 3 months, that's a long time. So it's an interesting wine. It's I think it's a bit more than just, young, simple, fruity.
Absolutely, yes. I very much agree with this opinion, because this is, I can see in this wine really the fusion of the Slovakian and the Austrian approach. So thank you very much. If anybody else want to comment, yes, yep. Liz, please. Elizabeth.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
I was quite interested. I just wanted to talk not so much about the wine, but I tried it in 2 other glasses. Because the orange wine glass is a similar shape, I thought maybe the taste would be similar. And for me, it just brought out very strange, leafy, minty freshness, which I was very surprised about. And then I also tried this wine in the edge glass, which is a much more sort of conventional wine glass shape. and that made it much more structured, much more tannin, and the fruit less evident. So the red wine glass certainly gave this opulent red fruit and spice character with the wine. So that was quite interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Liz, for your opinion. And can we proceed to the wine number 2? Georg, please.
Yeah, so the wine number 2 is coming from a region a little bit more south than the Leiterberg region, from Rosalia. Actually, it's a Rosalia DAC Blaufränkisch Reserve 2017. And if you see Reserve or Reserve on the label of an Austrian wine in conjunction with DAC, it always means oak. There can be some oak. And Mr. Fischer, it's about owning like 15 hectares of vineyards. He does have a winery in Hungary, by the way, as well, with 80 hectares. But you will see immediately the difference to the first wine in here. So this wine is aged in 18 months in a new French oak barrels, new French barrique barrels. You can see it's about 1.15 kilograms per wine, so it was really down to the lowest limit, which makes sense. But the region does have a quite high deneural swing, so the fruitiness together with the oakiness on this wine is giving the depth and the interesting thing to this wine, and a lot of ripeness is in there as well. It's a classically reserved Blaufränkisch from the Rosalia DAC.
Thank you very much, Georg. I would like to ask Elizabeth to comment on this wine, because I know that the Rosalia is something very important for you. Hello, Rosie, the daughter of Elizabeth. How are you? Okay,
Yeah, my daughter
Elizabeth.
is Rosalie.
Yes.
Yeah, my daughter is called Rosalie. So this is an appellation that I really like the name of. So when we were going through these wines, I have to say that I'm probably slightly unusual in that my introduction to this grape variety has been through Hungary with Cake Frankosz. And for me, this wine, maybe it's the lust soil, similar to Sexard, but this for me had a lot of similarities to some of the very elegant Sexard Cake Frankosz wines. By that, I mean, it has this blue-black minerality, a fruitiness, and then this bitter chocolate, savory character coming through, sort of so less spice, but more that blue-black minerality, black chocolate, slightly grainy tannins. And even though the alcohol is 14.5%, it's an incredibly well-balanced wine. That doesn't stand out at all. I just like the restraint and the elegance, and the structure of this wine came through beautifully. And again, the red wine glass brought out all that floral blue flowers and the black texture beautifully. I really liked this wine, but I didn't find the oak terribly evident. I know it has been aged in oak, but I think if I was tasting this blind, the oak is beautifully integrated and not very, very evident at all, which I love. So a very, very beautiful textural character on this wine.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Simon, could you tell us your opinion on this wine? As I mentioned, you are very familiar with Burgenland. So what do you think about this wine?
I mean, for me, it does have many of these characteristics that I associate with Mittelburgenland. It does have that weight and that more rounded style that I would expect. I'm still kind of trying to understand the Rosalia DAC a little bit more. I wouldn't say that I know it like the back of my hand, so it's difficult for me to compare what's different with Rosalia compared to Mittelburgenland per se. I have a slightly different opinion on the wine than Elizabeth. Maybe for me, I do feel the oak a lot. I think it's been done very well though, and I certainly agree with Elizabeth that it's well integrated. But for me, this is more what I would call maybe a sort of the classic style with quite a bit of oak, quite ripe, quite a lot of extraction. So for me, it's less about the fruit here, and it's maybe a bit more about the evolution.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. What about Maurizio? You are probably not that familiar with Blaufränkisch from Burgenland. How did you taste this wine? What is your opinion? Or maybe also on the previous one?
Yes, I know very little type of the Burgenland wines, but in this case, I thought that the wines have a very signature, and for the second wine that leads to testing, there is a very interesting at the nose because is less 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 impact at the nose, but when the wine arrive in the mouth is very more complexity and very interesting because I love the wines that the delicate fruity, the delicate spice is in the character.
Okay, thank you very much, Maurizio. I just would like to remark, for me, it is a great example as what is my impression on Mittelburgenland. This combination of fruit-forward, fleshy, well-integrated oak, and for me, this wine still needs some bottle aging. What do you think, Georg? You are more familiar with the style, but it has a big future. What do you think?
Yes, I think, and this is what it should be. So if it's in the reserve category, it should be a wine which should age quite well. And I guess this wine you can drink in 10 years from now as well, and it will be even more balanced, as Elisabeth was already saying. But it's Rosale is quite close to Mittelburgenland, and there are similarities, of course, between the wines. But the difference for me to the light, let's say Rosale and Mittelburg, that Rosale is sometimes a little bit fresher due to the touch of cooler air influence in there. But this wine for sure is a wine for aging.
Georg, and we can pass to the wine number 3, please. Can you present us the wine?
Sure. So the wine number 3 is coming from the very south of Burgenland, from the winery Mr. Jalitz. The basic thing on the south of Burgenland, the region is called Eisenberg, which gives you already the indication. A lot of iron is in the soil there, and this one is coming from a single vineyard called Fasching. There is a lot of clay and very depth clay in there, together with some iron. You can see that the technical facts here, malolactic fermentation done in stainless steel, aged in seasoned barrique, so it's a second and third fill as well. The yield is quite low with 40 hectoliters, quite old wines in there. So this, again, a reserve category meant for aging, meant a wine with a lot of depthness in there, a structured wine, but the acidity, according to the region, should be a little bit more upfront and make it more refreshing compared to the wine before.
I would like again Elisabeth to comment on this wine and also the other tasters. So Elisabeth, what do you think in comparison to the previous wine? What would you say about this one? Yes, Elisabeth.
Yep. So I love the vibrancy on this wine. For me, this, as George said, it has that more vibrant character. And what was interesting is that I wasn't tasting this wine alone. I was tasting with a colleague, and we were tasting in different glasses, and we both said at exactly the same time, this wine is red currants and violets. It has that minerality, it has the cocoa, it has the vibrant acidity, but it's also got this incredibly charming red currants and violet character, which I just loved. And again, it may be 2017, but a lot of aging potential. just this glass just brought out. I mean, I was just sort of sounds sort of really quite untechnical, but I just loved the vibrancy. And this, for me, this wine was exactly why BLAUFRÄNKISCH, Cape Francoche, FRANKOVKA MODRÁ is such an exciting grape variety, whether it's for red wine or for rosé, is that it balances vibrant acidity with very ripe fruit and beautiful aromatic side to it. And that is the star qualities of this grape variety for me. And it's all in this wine coming through. Just really beautiful.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I've been very enthusiastic there.
Thank you, Liz. It was excellent. I really like your comments. And I would like to come back to Simon again. What is your opinion on this wine, Simon? It's more filigree maybe than the previous, so I'm really curious what you would say about that.
I love this. To me, this is everything that I love about Eisenberg. Like just as Elizabeth says, it has that exciting acidity, that wonderful kind of mineral expression. It's got this very subtle sort of pepperiness on the nose as well, which I always like to smell. Yeah, I just think that the fruit is glorious, and the perfume of this wine on the nose. Maybe it's the glass. I think it's the wine and the glass. It's entrancing.
So, mentioning the glass, Maurizio, what do you think when you are tasting these wines? Because for me, it was the first time to taste so many BLAUFRÄNKISCH in the same glass, and having an impression from this how this glass really works perfectly with this grape variety that is quite subtle. So what is your opinion on this wine, Maurizio?
But I'm very surprised that about the wines evolved in this glass in 30 minutes, in 1 hour, because the wines changed for the first time, and now we have more complexity, more fruity, more spiced flower, more the good perception of the acidity, and at the nose, the wines express all characteristic of the wines. In the mouth, we have only a confirm that the characteristics is expressed at the nose. I am very satisfied about this.
Thanks, Maurizio. Georg, could you present the wine number 4, please?
Yeah, so we are back in Leiterberg region, so it's the same region where the very first wine in this tasting was coming from, but this time we have a Leiterberg DSC in the glass, coming from the winery of Mr. Nera. It's again a single vineyard wine called Ried Poschen. That's the name of the vineyard, 2017, which, by the way, a little bit was one of the best red wine years in the past we had, the last, let's say, 5-6 years. Spontaneous fermentation, manual punch down in there, 500 liter oak barrels for 21 months, 9 months on cross lees, so everything taken out of the grape, what they delivered from the vineyard. And I think the picture in the middle tells you exactly what it is all about. It's about limestone with mica schist and gneiss, so it's about minerality in this wine. It's one of the top products of this house, and for me, a perfect interpretation of BLAUFRÄNKISCH, what it can deliver.
Yeah, thank you very much, Georg. This time I would like to ask Simon to start the comments on this wine. So, Simon, how did you like this wine? What are your comments?
Well, yeah, I mean, Leiterberg is a region that's close to my heart. I used to live in Eisenstadt, so that's at the heart of Leiterberg. And yeah, I think this is a great example of the wines from that area. Actually, you can really feel this pepperiness a little bit more here. It's really expressive. it's interesting. I checked the alcohol. It's quite ripe. It's 13.5%, but it's an incredibly nimble kind of fresh style of wine, which I love. You don't feel the oak. It has this an aroma that I would describe as bay leaf or laurel a bit. So it's got a sort of certain herbal quality on the nose, as well as the fruit. The fruit is really charming, really lively. I like the sort of minimal intervention approach that this winery has taken. I think it's really allowing the fruit to speak in a very charming way here. There's a slight chalkiness to the texture, which is something that I associate with Leiterberg as well. I just think it's a lovely wine. I mean, this is a second glass wine for me. It has that drinkability, that freshness, but it also has character. It's 2017, and I think it's just going to keep getting better as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. Liz, what about you? What about this wine and you?
So this is quite interesting, and also reflecting on, there are a lot of articles about how different tasters taste wines differently. I definitely got that chalky, powdery texture that Simon got, but for me, I was getting far more savoury, slightly smoky fruit coming through. So very, very black fruit. I found it actually quite closed. I don't know whether I wasn't getting an enormous amount of expressive fruit coming through on it, more so today than I did yesterday. So for me, I think either my bottle or the age of the wine, but I still found it very, very restrained and very, very closed. I was just getting the intense texture, the powdery, chalky texture, and the black fruit on this. Mm-hmm. So not as expressive for me for Blaufränkisch as the previous 3 wines.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Liz. Before I ask Maurizio to tell us his opinion, I would agree with Elizabeth about this savory note. It was very present for me, and this restrained character. I made my tasting notes yesterday when I was pre-tasting the wines, and I really put down a note. This is a very Pinot Noir character, this Burgundy style that is coming slowly to you in this floral nose that is becoming more and more intense after 1 hour. And for me, this wine really has a very well integrated oak. I liked it very much. And this spicy, fine tannins in the aftertaste, very round and smooth. For me, it's a wine that has a big future, as Simon said. It's a great wine. Well, all these wines we tasted, but this is something that really reminded me to Burgundy. What about you, Maurizio? How did you like this wine?
Yes, I'm agree with Liz, with you, with Simon, because in this moment I find the wine more enjoyable, and in the first time the character of the vegetable or the spice is important, and now after the evolution in the glass, the wine is very, very smooth, very touchable in the mouth, because it's round. The sense is round in the mouth, in the nose. Is very interesting, the progression of these wines.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Maurizio. And Georg, could you present the wine number 5, please?
Yeah, so the wine number 5, and by the way, I tasted the wines today at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I left it in the glasses, and all of them are changing really nicely. So the last wine in the lineup here from Burgenland is coming from Mittelburgenland, the classical region for Blaufränkisch. It's coming from the winery Béla in Neckenmarkt. And Neckenmarkt, maybe as a difference to the other cities beside, Neckenmarkt, we talk about more sea height, about their vineyards. So this vineyard, Sonnensteig, is about 400 meters above sea level. And again, this wine is made 30 days spontaneous fermentation in 1,500 liter open wood cask matured in 500 liter barrels. And the soil type is about mica schist and gneiss. And maybe this is the wine which we say, okay, it's Mittelburgenland, but it's not the full heavy style we used to have from somewhere else. It's maybe a little bit more elegant, but this is exactly the Neckenmarkt compared to the rest of the Mittelburgenland. So something for everybody, and I'm really, really looking forward to hear the comments on that one.
So this time I would like to hear Maurizio as the first speaker, because with this wine I'm really curious about the opinion of a sommelier. Maurizio, please.
Thank you, Edith. In this case, in this wine, there is the intense color, full of yolk, vivacity, but still with a purple tone and color. It's there is the little contradiction between the youth and the color, and the immediate structure of the wine creates an immediately curiosity. To the nose, the wine is very complex. In this glass, present a structure characterized, but fruit note, a sense of the delicate face over of a woman, and sweet spices. And the nose, this wine is a mineral closure with a sense of the dry forest leaves, with a delicate sense of tobacco, and completes a very interesting olfactory picture. In the mouth.
Yes? Sorry.
Sorry, because in the mouth, at the start, was the more simple, more immediately. But in this moment, after the evolution, the little more international style is less. And the characteristic of the terroir and the typology is very interesting, because the closure in the mouth is with the phenolic senses, with the tannin that is very integrated, mature, and sustain a good persistence.
Thank you very much, Maurizio. What about Simon? How did you like this wine? I'm really curious to hear your opinion.
I like it actually, and as you may have picked up, I'm not really a Mittelburgenland fan. Often the wines are a little bit too heavy for me, and I think Jörg is absolutely right to point out the soil type here, because yeah, it's not typical Mittelburgenland at all. It has freshness. I love the structure. I think it's the most tannic of all the wines that we've had in this flight, even though it's a year older, 2016. But this structure is incredibly open, incredibly satisfying. I'm really starting to think about what I might have for my dinner when I drink this wine. And yeah, it's just a great combination. There's a really nice interplay between the fruit and the tannins. The oak aging is very subtle, not in your face. It's a great wine. It's also interesting because it's 2016, which is a vintage that I think many Austrian wine growers would rather forget, because it was such hard work with frosts and hail and just about everything. I see that this winemaker says their yields are 25 hectolitres per hectare. If they got that yield in 2016, I salute them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. Liz, what about you? How did you like this wine?
Yes, I loved this wine. I thought it was just super elegant. As Simon said, that tannic structure was there, but it's a year older and it's aging beautifully. I put black velvet, blue flowers, spice. I mean, really super elegant as a wine, really, really classy. I've just got one point
Yes.
Please don't put it in such a heavy bottle. It doesn't need to be in such a heavy bottle to support such an amazingly elegant wine. I'm not a big fan of heavy bottles, but the wine itself is beautiful. Blue flowers, spices, elegant, lovely structure, really, really classy. Loved it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Liz. I will ask Georg about the bottle after, but I just want to have a very little remark on this wine. I really love this free approach because I am coming from Slovakia, and we haven't any defined style for Slovakian wines. Any kind, any variety, any style. It means sometimes it's complicated, but on the other hand, it gives the winemakers a big freedom. So I'm not that much interested, I would say, to have a proper style of a region. What interests me always is the wine that I have in the glass. And for this wine, I don't mind if it's coming from Burgenland or from Burgundy or from Slovakia or from any part of the world. For me, this is a wine that works perfectly with time. Maybe it's because of the open tank fermentation. I've noticed that Blaufränkisch works very well if it's fermented with a little of this air contact in open vat, with this free style, I would say, this kind of approach. And maybe it's the region, maybe it's the winemaker. I don't know him very much, but I have to say that this wine is so long, promising, so complex, and I was so impressed of all this lineup. Thank you very much, Georg, and congratulations. But this wine, for me, was a demonstration of a free approach to what Blaufränkisch should be. Do you agree? And what do you think about the bottle? Maybe the winemaker wanted to say, okay, be careful, my wine is so energetic that I have to protect him with such a heavy glass. What do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing with the heavy bottles. First of all, I think it's the shape of the bottle, which is really according to the style of wine, and it was mentioned quite often today that this Burgundian style of Blaufränkisch somehow is the way or the common thing in all those wines, and this is the reason why it's in a Burgundian bottle. And as this is a let's call it reserve category wine, it's a single vineyard wine, maybe the winery or the wine grower decided to put it in the heavy Burgundian bottle instead of the lightweight Burgundian bottle, just to show the range on top of the production line. This might be the case. I don't know any specific reason for it, but it's heavy bottle, yeah. But Elizabeth, it's not so heavy than the ones from Malbec from Argentina, I guess, yeah, which are even more heavy here. But I think it shows exactly what it should show, that this bottle, you can, the glass, the thickness of the glass, yeah, it's for ages, like the wine in the bottle. You can age it for, I don't know, 15, 20, maybe 25 years. And maybe this is the sign the winemaker want to show with this bottle.
Yeah, thank you very much, Georg, for this remark. And we will make a conclusion after tasting all wines. So now, if you agree, we will pass to the second part of the tasting, and this is the part of Slovakian Blaufränkisch. In Slovak, it's FRANKOVKA MODRÁ, which means exactly the same, Blue Frankish, which means blue grape of a noble French quality in the old times. So last time when we tasted orange wines, I presented a little bit Slovakia because maybe it's not that well known. So just very briefly, the geographic position, it is in the very heart of Europe. You can see this very tiny green point in the center of Europe, surrounded by other winemaking countries from the west, south and east, and Poland from the north, but the part of Slovakia in the north is very mountainous, so no winemaking there in Slovakia, I would say. I have agreed with Georg that he can that he has lent me this slide because it shows perfectly where is the winemaking geographical position of Slovakia. The most important winemaking part of Slovakia is in the south, in the southern border, very much influenced by the continental climate, and it's very dry and very big differences between summer and winter temperatures and night and day temperatures. This is the most important feature that is influencing the winemaking in Slovakia. And the second very important feature is the landscape. As you can see, the country is very mountainous, and the only green part that you can see in the south is actually the winemaking part of Slovakia, which is the Danube plain in the southwest, and then the Košice plain in the southeast. But we also have a very, very tiny part of Slovakia in the very south, which is the volcanic part of Slovakia, close to the extinct volcano Sitno. And as you can see, we are bordering and sharing the bordering winemaking regions with Morava from Czech Republic, Weinviertel and Carnuntum, and of course Burgenland from Austria, and then part of Sopron and a big part of Nesmej from the Hungarian part, and then the Tokaj region. So this is about Slovakia. And we have 6 winemaking regions, as you can see, in the south of Slovakia. And just very briefly, some figures. We are a white wine producing country in comparison with Austria. We are much smaller, although historically, until the middle of 18th century, what is now Slovakia, we had about 45,000 hectares or even more of vineyards. So we lost the vineyards because of the diseases, the vine diseases, at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, and then because of the political changes. So this is just very briefly about Slovakia. And as you can see, talking about red grape varieties, FRANKOVKA MODRÁ or BLAUFRÄNKISCH is by far the most important red grape variety in Slovakia, almost 40% of the total surface, and it is also the most noble grape variety of Slovakia, very flexible and can be found in Slovakia in different styles, from very light, easy drinking, everyday wine, nice, spicy rosé wine, sparkling wines, great fruity red wines, very structured red wines, and sweet wines, of course. We also have, because FRANKOVKA is prone to botrytis, we also have some late harvest or noble rotten grapes harvested wines. So this is an exciting grape variety in Slovakia. And the first wine I would like to present you is coming from the region, winemaking region Nitra, and it is very close to Štiavnica Hills and very close to the extinct volcano, as I said, Sitno, and it is influenced, they are outcrops of volcanic soils out there. The winery's name is Nichta, and it's a family winery. And the wine name is FRANKOVKA MODRÁ Terroir, and the vintage is 2016. You can see the information about the winery, winemaking technique, the analytics of this wine, and you can see also the retail price of the wine. I wanted to show you that you can get a great value for money in Slovakia. With such a noble grape variety and a very good wine style that can be aged for years, and it is a very classical approach to BLAUFRÄNKISCH, to FRANKOVKA MODRÁ. So I would like to hear the opinion, because this is a really in my opinion, really a very classical Blaufränkisch style or FRANKOVKA MODRÁ style. So I would like to hear the opinion of Georg as the Blaufränkisch representative of Burgenland.
Yeah, so I agree with you. It's a quite classic style of Blaufränkisch, and for me the interesting thing with this wine was when I poured the wine in the glass. The very first impression was it's about fruitiness. So I had a lot of blackberries, raspberries. There are even some cassis aroma when I tasted the wine, and after let's say 30 minutes, 35 minutes in the glass, I tasted the wine again and smelled it again, and there it changed, and even now it's still more on the spicy and herbal side. So it's changing the flavor, which is really, really interesting on this wine. On the palate, for me, it's a very nice made wine with, you can feel the acidity of Blaufränkisch, but it's not that high as, for example, with one of the wines we had before. The tannins are more rounded and more softer, so it gets a full impression on your palate, although it's just 12.5 ABV. So it's a really good, nice glass of full body, not full body, but full red wine with a very good flavor and a spicy finish, quite refreshing. So I liked it very much.
Thank you very much, Georg. Simon, would you like to comment on this wine, please? Just briefly.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what can I say? It's. I agree with everything Georg said. But I think it's terrific value for money. I have to say, it's got all this lovely kind of dark cherry fruit in there and some herbal stuff going on. Yeah. It's. Yeah. Just. I'd buy this for €8 in a heartbeat.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. And I would like to hear the opinion of Elizabeth, because we visited this winery together in 2018, and we visited the vineyard of Blaufränkisch, and you really could see where it is situated, and we made a very extensive tasting through Blaufränkisch up to, I don't remember which vintage, and it was really an explication how Slovakian winemakers understand Blaufränkisch, Kék Frankos, or FRANKOVKA MODRÁ. Elizabeth, please.
Yes, we had a really, really exciting visit. I have to say, this is the producer that, for me, makes the best Dunaj in Slovakia. I probably get shot by every producer after this, but I really enjoyed their Dunaj as well. And we did visit the vineyard, the Blaufränkisch, the FRANKOVKA MODRÁ vineyard, and I seem to remember it was in November, and he still wasn't harvesting. He was terribly excited that
Exactly. Yes.
2018 was such an amazing vintage.
Yes.
And so I'd really like to taste the 2018 as well. I agree with Georg and Simon, not only just the price, but this wine really ticks all the boxes. For Blaufränkisch, it's got that mineral character, it's got the spice, it's got the black fruit, and it has that wonderful FRANKOVKA MODRÁ freshness. Even though I remember it has been an incredibly southerly exposed vineyard with lots and lots of sun, this wine just has freshness. Almost, can I say, I know everyone talks about Pinot Noir, but for me there was that slight Cabernet mineral leafiness coming through, which again is lovely, and I often get in Kék Frankos, FRANKOVKA MODRÁ, that slight Cabernet leafiness on the wine, but a delightful wine with ticking all the boxes, and at that price, yum, I'll be with Simon. We'll be driving over next summer with our empty cars collecting wine. Definitely.
That's nice. And what about Maurizio? What do you think about this FRANKOVKA? How can it work in your restaurant? It's a great price. It's a fine wine. Or what do you think? What is your opinion, Maurizio?
Yes, I think that yes, I think that this wine can stay in my restaurant because have the good possibility of combination with the meat course. But I think that this wine is the perfect connection between the wines we have tested and the wines to come, because there is a good continuity of the perfume and the demonstration of the characteristic of the wines.
Yes.
Is very, very interesting. Is the very good connection.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maurizio. So we can now pass to the wine number 2, which, and we will change the region. We are now in Small Carpathians, which is the most important wine growing region in Slovakia. The Blaufränkisch from this region, or FRANKOVKA from this region, is always different because it is cooler, the region is cooler. And I have chosen a sample of the 2015 vintage from the family winery. The name is Karpatska Perla. You can see the vineyard, you can see the winery and the family. And this wine is, in my opinion, a very good expression of the classic Small Carpathians, FRANKOVKA MODRÁ, that everybody expects. Everybody is used to this style. And what I like, this family is producing wines, red wines, that they launch on the market after 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years development in the cellar. So they really try to introduce wines that are ready and prepared with their drinkability, but still have a long aging potential. And this is for me an example of this wine. So you can have the technical details that I just don't want to repeat. It is really a very non-interventional approach to winemaking and, of course, vine growing in this family that you can see all the time. And I would, for this wine, because it is, for me, a very classical FRANKOVKA, this Pinot Noir, fruity Pinot Noir style of Eastern Europe, I would say. So I am curious what Maurizio would say about this wine. So Maurizio, please.
Thank you, Edita. After the testing of orange wines and the testing these wines, I must say that my passion for Slovakian wines is growing. And because this wine is very elegant and full of charm, with an incredible balance at the cost and the quality. It's lovely how the wine are there of the side of the glass, indicating a beautiful structure, has an elegance already in the color, which is a little transparent, but the color is diffused with a very sinuous movement in the glass. I think that there is a good use of the refinement in oak, which render him very immediate, enjoyable, ready, but without losing the sense of fruit. Very fresh, very elegant, with third aromas of spices. On the palate, the wine is completed with a perfect phenolic fruit expression, with a tannin which sustained the wine and is accompanied by a long finish with good persistence, lightly bitter but very clean in the mouth.
Yes.
The wines,
yeah. Thank you, Maurizio. Yes, I think that it's a great tannin management you can see in this wine. But I would like very brief comments from Elizabeth and from Simon. So, Elizabeth, please.
Yes, I agree. I mean, they definitely got that slightly paler color, but it is the oldest one that we've had this evening. Yes. And it doesn't have the black chocolate. It's got a slightly sort of riper, softer chocolate, a very warm, mellow character. And again, I think what's quite interesting is that loess soil, which we had with the Rosalia, which I think gives a much more supple, softer tannin to Frankovka Modra. I think that works incredibly well. But a very, very beautiful, warm, ripe berry fruit. Very, very nice. And note the baby barrels before they've grown into big barrels. That's an in-joke.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Simon, just a remark. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think very nice evolution on this wine, as everyone has said. Really, it's quite creamy. Really, what strikes me is the creaminess of the texture, and just as Elizabeth says, a very interesting comparison with the wines from Rosalia and from Mittelburgenland, actually, because we're talking about very broadly similar soils. Yeah, it's another side to Blaufränkisch or Frankovka Modra here.
Thank you very much, Simon. Georg, just briefly, comparing to the Burgenland style of Blaufränkisch, what do you think about this wine?
So for me, to make it short, there is just one word: it's elegancy. I like the elegance on this wine, the freshness, and I agree with the less soil. For me, it always gives more creaminess, more roundness in the tannin structure in this wine, and this is perfectly fit together. So let's just judge this wine on its own and not compare it with any Burgenland, I would say.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so we pass to wine number 3. And this is a wine I have selected to show a kind of what we call natural or unplugged approach to winemaking. The winery's name is Magula or Vino Magula, which is a family project in Small Carpathians, but it is another part of Small Carpathians. The name is Sucha nad Parną, which is a very historical winemaking village in Small Carpathians. You can see Vlado Magula, the winemaker, and the technical details about the wine, also the technology. So this is the unplugged approach, as I said. And when we compare the soils, this is a sandy loam and calcareous bedrock, but actually, when we are talking about structure, it is also a loess. Yeah? It is very typical in Small Carpathians that many vineyards has this loess structure. And as you can see, working with gravity and open vat fermentation, so it gives the wine different character, but still very typical Blaufränkisch. You can see also the very high acidity of this wine, which, in my opinion, it's the backbone of Blaufränkisch in Slovakia. I would like Simon to comment on this wine, because I have to say that it was probably the Vlado Magula that has shown Slovakia to Simon Wolf. Is that right, Simon?
Well, yeah, Vlad, he more or less petitioned me and insisted that Slovakia needed to be in my book. So we kind of met when we were discussing that. It was perhaps 2 or 3 years ago, I think. So I've been following Vlad's wines for a few years, and I have a huge amount of respect for him. I think he's a very inquisitive and very detailed winemaker. I love this. I mean, this wine, it won't be for everyone, maybe, because it's exactly what it says. It's unplugged. It's raw. It's sort of it's Frankovka Modra without a filter, and I really love it for that. I have to say, because to me, it has all the prototype elements that I adore about this variety. It has this kind of really intense sour cherry acidity to it. It has a sort of something that I would describe as a sort of green peppercorn, sort of vegetal spiciness on the nose, which I just love. It just entices me in. It's crunchy, you know. I'm not just talking about the tannins. I'm talking about the fruit. The fruit is relatively lean, but not too lean. And for me, it just makes me want to drink. That kind of thirst quenching acidity that this wine has, the lightness of it, the excitement of it. I really feel that this is very intense, and it's very very interesting experiment, I think, just to take all the filters away. There's nothing slick about this wine. There's nothing polished about it in a way, but it expresses this variety so well, and I really enjoy it for that.
Thank you very much, Simon. And what about Elizabeth? Because I know that you are in a, maybe it's still a secret, in a project with Magua family. It's not a secret anymore? Okay, fine. So it will be a pink wine that you are integrated in a project with this winemaker. But anyway, we know you know this winemaker. So what is your opinion on this wine, please?
I agree totally with Simon on this. I actually prefer this to the 2015. I think the oak is better on this wine, and I think Vlad will probably agree on that. For me, I've got cloves, aromatics. The spice is very cloves, and I love I put piquant. You know, it's that vibrant freshness about the wine. And as Simon said, you know, it may not have some of the sophisticated polish of some of the other wines, but it is incredibly drinkable and spicy and fresh. And I found it very exciting to actually see what a wine can make when it's in this very natural state. So yes, I put vibrant, piquant, fresh, lovely texture, cloves, and a very nice wine. I really liked it.
Thank you, Liz. What about, but very briefly, what about Georg? Just one sentence about this wine.
Yeah, for me, this wine, and I agree fully with what Elizabeth and Simon was saying, I would name it as structure. This is the one word for me for this wine, because it really has got maybe a structure which is not for everybody's darling, yeah, but it's pure Blaufränkisch, and it takes everything from Blaufränkisch. The stems are included, and I think you can feel it. There's this herbal aromas in there, and this makes it really interesting Blaufränkisch, and I think there's potential to age on this wine.
Yes, thank you very much. And Maurizio, just one sentence about this wine.
Yes, Edita.
Yes,
I think only one thing, because the characteristic of this wine is the very green, very vegetable freshness, and with the little aromas of the jalapeno fresh sauce. Very.
Yes, I think everybody has noticed this, that it is a slightly herbaceous character. Elizabeth knows that we say in Slovakia that it has the poppy seed character, which is a telltale of Slovakian herbaceous freshness, which is in a positive way. And I really like very much also the licorice character and the typical pungent natural wine style of Blaufränkisch, which is it's clean, it's unplugged, and it's a really interesting approach. I like it very much as well. So we will pass to wine number 4, and I would like to present you a very interesting personality of Slovakian natural wine and authentic wine movement. The name is Zsolt Schütte, and his winery, the name is Strekov 1075. The village is kind of 20 kilometers from where we are now, from Béla. And you can see in this picture the Hungarian hills already. You can't see Danube, but it is in between the vineyard and then the hills in the background. And this is really the influence of this, the Hungarian influence, the Danube influence in style, in freedom. This is the kind of, I would call it the monarchic approach to wine. And I would like to present you vintage, sorry, I think it's not correct. It's 2018, sorry, it's not correct. Okay, so it's 2018. And this is really an artisan winemaking approach, very careful vine growing, and also during the fermentation and all the process of vinification is aiming not to take anything out of grapes and not to put anything into the wine. So just leave the wine to go his way or its way and to live the life of freedom. So this is the approach. This is by far the most acidic Blaufränkisch in this tasting, although during my tasting I have not noticed it as disintegrated. For me, as I said already, the acidity is really a perfect backbone of those Blaufränkisch or FRANKOVKA Slovakian wines, although I would call this FRANKOVKA Kék Frankoš because I can feel this Hungarian style in this wine. I will ask after Elizabeth to comment on it because she is in a very good connection with some Hungarian winemakers, especially from Sexard region. If our friend Csilla Sebestyén is following us, hello Csilla. Hopefully next time we will have a Hungarian Kék Frankoš in our tasting as well. So Liz, could you comment on this wine? Because you know the winemaker, we visited this winery 2 years ago and you have tasted several wines from Zsolti already. What do you think about this wine?
I have to say I absolutely adored this wine. As you said, it's got this really high acidity, but it really wasn't evident. It had that, it was almost creamy as opposed to acidic. Very, very vibrant, black chocolate spice, cocoa, creamy. And I have to say, and I don't know what this means, but I tried it in the red wine glass, the orange wine glass, and the edge wine glass, and it was the only wine out of all 10 in this tasting that actually tasted good in all 3. And I'm sure that is quite symbolic, really. It appealed in everything. There was more spice and red fruit in the orange wine glass. It was more vibrant and edgy in the edge glass. And in the red wine glass, all of that came together. So I think this was an incredibly complete wine. I loved it. And a quick aside, my nickname for editor is Poppy Seed. So we know that. But I love this wine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. What about Simon? You're a great fan of natural style of Blaufränkisch, Kék Frankoš, FRANKOVKA. So how did you like this wine?
Yeah, I'm with Elizabeth on this. Really, really like this. I mean, to me, this is the way I describe this wine is you take some super fresh berries, you know, let's say it's red currants or black currants or cherries or whatever, and you crush them and make a compote out of them, and you really concentrate all of those flavors. And this is what we get in this glass. It's really just like someone lifted the veil. It's just pure, intense fruit. And I think it's also a really good advert for natural winemaking, actually, because to me there's nothing funky or weird about this. It just hits you straight in the face with fruit. You know, I don't feel like I'm tasting winemaking. I don't feel like I'm tasting oak. I'm just tasting the fruit, and that's great. And I love the acidity. It's exciting. It's
Yeah. Thank you very much, Simon. Georg, how about you?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting wine, and for me, I got a lot of minerality in this wine, a lot of very good structure, and a touch of wildness, which reminds me on another winemaker here in Austria or in Burgenland area, doing kind of the same style. And I tried this wine with another glass from Gabriel, and there it changed a little bit, but it was still a quite nice impression on wine, a little bit more on the acidic side. A little bit more on the body, but altogether, I agree. It's the same in all the glasses, and for me, it's something you have to try for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Georg. I would like to say that really you can feel this minerality coming from these chalky subsoils that are present here, close to the Danube. all wines are so vibrant and energetic, and this electricity that is coming from the acidity is very present if you really have this natural, unplugged, free approach. So you can see that very much. What about Maurizio? How did you like this wine?
But I think that this wine I have the very incredible equilibrium for between the part of the vegetable and the acidity and the fruit of the wild fruit, berry fruit. Very interesting because is harmonic from the start to the end. Very, very, very coherent in these wines.
Thank you very much. So we pass to the wine number 5 from the Slovakian lineup. And for this wine, I decided to show a completely different approach to FRANKOVKA. This is a winemaker, Martin Pomfi. I work with since some years already. And I'm really following the development of this guy that is not coming from, he's not a winemaker, but he's coming from a winemaking background. And he has vineyards in small Carpathians. You can see him then at the picture. That's me. It's him, really, the small spot. But he has a great team of winemakers, cellar masters, and he's also he acquired vineyards here in South Slovakia. So we are in the same region, Chateau, different vineyard, of course, with the last wine from Slovakia. And what is the different approach? This is actually the second harvest, the late harvest from the same vineyard of a very overripe FRANKOVKA in 2018, which was an excellent year for noble botrytis. So a part of grapes, 10%, were noble rotten, and the wine was really naturally fermented, not to dryness, but until the fermentation stopped. So you can see the wine has a residual sugar, it has quite a high alcohol content, still nice acidity, and this is a wine that for me represents a kind of style between port wine, Amarone, but Slovakian approach. So I would like to hear the opinion of Maurizio, because really maybe it reminds you on Amarone. What do you think? Maurizio? Are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In this case, this wine is very different from the medium Amarone type. I find the very characteristic in this wine. This wine is different of the wine that we tested, and there is a good expression of the surmaturation of the grapes naturally, with the little part of the sugar residual, but the alcohol and the structure in the wine, they don't equilibrium of this wine is very different. It's very different of the Amarone, of the another wine made in Italy with the long time of maturation with the skin and with the dried fruit.
Yeah, sure. I agree. It is just that for us, this sense of sweetness and this overripe grapes and this touch of volatility that comes from the noble botrytis, it is something that reminds us on this style. Of course, it is different. I agree with you. What about Elizabeth? What do you think about this wine? You know the winemaker. What do you think about this approach?
So I think this is quite interesting, and I ought to actually speak for Frank, who has lost his connection. Both of us really like the wines of Martin Pomfrey, so that very much like his range. So I messaged editor yesterday, and I said this wine in the big red wine glass, I'm picking up volatility, and I was really quite concerned. And then I went on to this wine in the edge wine glass, which I know we're not talking about. I don't have an example with me. And in the edge wine glass, this wine really shone. It became rich and unctuous and black chocolate and red fruit and much more of that Amarone style that you're talking about, which was lost in the big red wine glass. So really this shows, I mean, I was never a believer in this, that the wine glass made such a big impact on this wine, but the tighter wine glass for this wine really pulled the flavors together, gave it far more richness, far more intensity, and that Amarone style. So I think the problem with this style of glass, for this style of wine, with maybe the botrytis, is that it releases some of that more volatile character. I don't know about whether the others have found that, but I know Martin Pomfrey, and I know his range of wines, and I know they're excellent. So I was actually quite keen to push this into other glasses. So in the edge glass, I loved it.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth. What about Simon? How did you like this wine?
Well, yeah, I wasn't enjoying it very much, but I was listening to Elizabeth, and I've poured it into my water glass, which is the only other glass that I have at hand's reach. By God, she's right. This is in the water glass, but it's much more successful. Yeah, this large red wine glass does unfortunately bring out. I think it brings out a certain unfinished character. I get fermentation aromas and certainly some volatility. I mean, it is a barrel sample, so I think it's difficult to judge. This isn't a finished wine yet, but in this humble, straight water glass from IKEA, I do get more balance. I do get richness, and I can see what the intent of this wine is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. And what about Georg? What do you think? Because you also are quite used to botrytis character. Is this also, or did you see some winemakers, any winemakers from Burgenland to make red wines from partially botrytized grapes? What do you think?
Yes, there is, but mainly if they do so, it's really like Beerenauslese from Zweigelt or things like this. But I think on some other wine producers doing a kind of double pasta wines. And if you were talking about the Amarone before, so for sure it's not an Italian wine, but for me it's a mixture from Amarone and Recioto to the residual sugar. And I think it's quite interesting because it's really good to drink. Of course, it's a cask sample. And I immediately tried it as well. I had the Gabriel glass, for example, and in this glass, it really shines up. The residual sugar isn't coming that much up front in the wine, and it's more about fruitiness, roundness, and softness, and not so open as with the bigger glass in here. But botrytis on red wines is a very, very interesting topic, I can say.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much. I have tasted some wines like that when I was in a very interesting tasting in Budapest, in Hungary. Some winemakers from Hungary are trying to do this style, and many sommeliers or wine experts, Hungarian origin, were embarrassed of this style. But I think this is natural. I mean, if the nature can give us this, we have to go this way. And I'm very curiously listening to your opinions about how the glass works for wine and wine for the glass, because really we have to say as a conclusion to this tasting or to this online masterclass that wine is actually not essential. We don't need it to live, actually. We can consider it a luxury, for example. But more and more with time, people are enjoying wine. It is not just a thirst-quenching beverage. I mean, we really want to enjoy our wine. So what do you think after having this great lineup of Austrian BLAUFRÄNKISCH and Slovakian FRANKOVKA MODRÁ? Does a correct or right wine glass really enhance or maybe cover the qualities of wine? Do you think it's I'm right or maybe not? So Georg, can we start with you?
Yeah, of course. So I do think that the wine glasses are changing the style of wine, the way how you nose it, the way how it comes into your mouth, more structured or a little bit more broader. And this fits to certain wine styles and does not fit to other wine styles. So it's about the selection. But for me in this tasting, I was tasting all the wines in different glasses as well. The final finding is there is something for everybody, and you have to find your glass and your style of wine which fits together. And there is no right or wrong, there is just a different, and it's your personal opinion or personal impression about what fits and what does not fit to your personal style. So I would just recommend to everybody, try the same wine in different glasses and get a lot of experience.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Georg. Elizabeth, just shortly, we talked a lot about wine and glass. So what is your opinion, very briefly?
I completely agree with Georg. You have to find your own glass. But what does worry me considerably is that you can maybe send your wine off to be tasted by a journalist or in a competition, and if it's in the wrong glass, you're going to get a totally wrong character. So on one hand, the type of glass you use for the wine can absolutely make a radical difference on the wine that you're tasting. But on the other hand, you can kill a wine if you've got the wrong glass. So I'm completely schizophrenic on this one. I don't really know what to recommend with a wine glass.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. And very shortly, Simon, and then Maurizio, just to conclude very briefly. Simon, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that glassware makes a huge difference. But I think, yeah, at a given point, practicality also takes over. I mean, I would love to have 50 different glasses at home for each different wine, but ultimately, yeah, just as Georg says, you just have to find something that works for you. And people enjoy music when it plays from their mobile phones, even though it sounds better on a top class hi-fi system. So I think at a given point, the wine has to do the talking, and it has to work with whatever you put it in, really. But I like good glassware, and this has been a very interesting exercise, especially with this last wine, to see what a difference it can make.
And last but not least, Maurizio, just briefly, were you satisfied with this tasting of BLAUFRÄNKISCH and FRANKOVKA from this huge 900 milliliter Linea Umana glass?
Yes, I did. I'm very satisfied, in particular for the last wine, because we need to read know which style of wine fit with which type of glass. Because I agree that this wine is better. This wine, the last wine, is better in a tight glass, because it is the same discussion of the orange wines. In a big glass, it develops too many volatile, no? And I'm very satisfied because the glass in this case, but in all time, is very important for the character of the wines.
Thank you very much, Maurizio. I would like to thank all of you, dear master tasters, to participate in this online tasting. And I would like to make a final toast. Thank you very much. I would like to present the director of Chateau Béla, Mr. Jürgen Grobe. Thank you for hosting our event, and I'm looking very much forward to meet all our master tasters and great winemakers from all over the world, great tasters all over the world, next year in June. Then in a short time we will have Christmas, so I would like to say everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and don't forget 2020, because people say we have to forget. No, we have to remember, because we have learned a lot from it. And it is also very important to have this experience. I would like to encourage all our friends, wine lovers, to support their winemakers. We need it. We need you to drink good wine. We need you to be faithful with your own winemakers, with the winemakers all over the world. And don't forget about all the restaurant owners, all the hotel managers, because they are suffering a lot during this COVID period. And I hope that we will recover from this experience very soon. We will learn from it, and then we meet next year powerful, more experienced, with good wine, in nice hotels, very romantic hotels, and we will continue. Cheers to everybody. Cheers. Thank you very much.